I did a prediction video on this, but I didn't put it up because I found out that Roman Reigns is not going to be on the card because he had emergency surgery. So why not just do the whole review? So I'm just going to go ahead and just talk about Night of Champions. I just got done watching it. And honestly, I will say that there's a lot of things in this entire pay-per-view that surprised me. I didn't think that this pay-per-view was going to be all that great because it wasn't that, well, they pretty much hyped up only one match and they kind of eclipsed the others. So you thought that the match was going to be mediocre and bland. I was wrong. Two of the championship matches really did impress me. The tag team titles and the US title. Sheamus and Cesaro brought the pain and made this match seem important. The one thing that I never liked the WWE doing was treating the US belt like it's nothing. They treated it like it was a starter belt and that's it. But this match really gave the belt some meaning. It gave the belt some kind of credibility. Having these two guys, one that's pretty much is an up-and-comer and the other one is a seasoned vet, literally going head-to-head, giving a great match for this belt like they really do care. And that's the one thing I loved about this match, the energy behind it. And it was pretty much medium to fast-paced throughout the entire time. And not only that, these guys had a great chemistry in the ring, let alone played out a great feud inside the ring. And it was a wonderful match. I was highly entertained. Not to mention how, and besides that match, I was really impressed with the tag team titles match. Man, Golden Stardust, that's some hunger in those two. Seriously, you can tell. It was time for the Usos to drop the belts. They had it for way too long. They didn't really put up a fight. Well, not really put up a fight, but the thing is they didn't really have a lot of opponents. So showing at Night of Champions, the Usos brought the pain even though Jimmy was in pain. But unfortunately, Golden Stardust, well, fortunately, actually, Golden Stardust brought the most. So unfortunately for the Usos, but it made me happy. Seriously. I was so happy to see Golden Stardust win because we really do need some decent heels. And they are decent. They're beyond decent. They're like out there, unique, cosmic heels. And it works. It really does work. And I enjoy seeing those two in the ring. And now that they're champs, I hope they keep it for a few months. I hope they keep it at least until maybe the Rumble. I don't know if they're going to actually have a match at the Rumble. But either or, they'll probably be in the Royal Rumble match. But either or, I'm really hoping that they have the belts for a little while longer. At least until Hell in a Cell, maybe. No, actually, no. I want them to keep it for at least 3 or 4 months. They need to have a decent title reign because the Usos have had it since WrestleMania. Well, since the Raw before WrestleMania. So it's been a while for them. And I really do want the Golden Stardust to actually have the belts for that long. Because they're great heels. It was a great match between those two. They really did showcase a really strong feud inside the ring, which is what they're supposed to do. They told a great story. They had a great match. Their moves were awesome. I enjoyed it. I really did. And now let's get on to the rest of the pay-per-view. The one thing that bothered me was the fact that they brought Florida Georgia Line out there. And the group, even though they're celebrities, musicians, what have you, they sucked the energy out of the match because the commentators were putting too much focus on them. You don't have to overhype the fact that you're in Nashville, okay? We know that you're in Nashville. We know that's country music central. They don't have to be there. I'd rather them tweet on Twitter than them actually being in the arena. Really. I would rather that happen. But honestly, they end up showing up and it was just flat out stupid. They sucked the energy out of the match. It was all about them and not about the IC belt, which was one thing that made me upset a bit. Because Night of Champions is about the belts, all the belts, and about the opponents and the challengers who are trying to get these belts. It's about them, not celebrities. They can make their album somewhere else. They should not even have been there. But then, I mean, it made me tired watching that match. Just the complete lack of concentration from the commentary, let alone the match itself. And this really should have played out well. And honestly, I was so bored by Florida Georgia Line being there. And I was just so bored with the beginning of the match. I fell asleep. I ended up waking up at the very end to see the Miz won. And as usual, the Miz didn't win cleanly. which I really wanted. I really wanted The Miz to have a clean win, not any kind of assistance. But honestly, he won The Miz way. He is now a new IC champ. Yay, I guess. And also Sheamus ended up retaining his belt. But even if he retained his belt, I'm telling you, those two still look good. And that's still my opinion. Those two matches are the matches of the night. They're my main events, in my opinion. But let's move on from there. I'm just going to talk about some of the championship matches, and I'll go back to the standalones. I'm not going to talk about the main event. That's going to be dead last. But let's talk about the Divas title. I could care less about the Divas title. I just didn't care. I wanted to, but I didn't. And there's one factor that kind of ruined it for me. The Bella twins. I love the Bella twins. I do. I love Brie. I love Nikki. I like those guys. They are cool. The problem is that Nikki and Brie's feud kind of merged into AJ Lee and Paige's feud, and it just didn't work. It just seemed like that Nikki was a third wheel. It really wasn't important to have her in a triple threat match. Usually in a triple threat match, all three opponents have some sort of importance being in the match, and there's somebody that you're still looking at and focusing on and caring about being in that match. But Nikki, it wouldn't have mattered if she was there or not, because it was all focused on AJ and Paige. And she got taken out not even halfway in the match and was gone for the entire match. So honestly, she shouldn't have been there at all, because it didn't even matter. And that's the one thing that makes me sad, because Nikki has gotten better since she's been gone for a year. She really has improved, and she's starting to understand exactly what her character should be and how to perform her moves and what her body is built for. She is learning, and she's great at it. Like, she's definitely getting better at her moves, as well as what her strengths are. And I wish that they had it a lot more in the ring, but she just didn't last that long. That's the only sad part for me. But I will say that AJ and Paige, of course, it's all about those two. It was all about the frenemies. But the one thing that puzzled me the most, and it made me feel like that it was just pretty much rigged, was how Paige tapped out to the Black Widow. I've seen many times that the Black Widow was on her and she was able to counter it. She came close to countering it, but at the end she kind of forgot. Oh, wait, she's supposed to win. You know, that's kind of how I took it. That Paige kind of forgot that she was supposed to lose, and she ended up tapping out to AJ Lee. I don't know. It just didn't seem like a real win. It just seemed like a very hoaxed win to have AJ Lee get the belt for a while. It just didn't seem genuine to me. That's just me. It didn't seem genuine. But either or, she tried to fake that she had a broken arm. I'm not saying that she faking it. She probably was hurt. I don't know. But the thing is, if you have a broken arm and you're holding on to it and you feel like your arm is injured, don't be banging down on the mat like when you're angry, knowing that this is the arm that's supposed to be hurt. You got to play an injury, and she just doesn't know how to do that yet. But she's still learning. She's still learning. So I'm not going to completely poo-poo on the match, but I'm going to say that it wouldn't have mattered if Nikki was in it or not, which really did make me kind of sad. But let's go back to some of the standalone matches before I talk about the main event. There were two standalone matches. One that had pretty much the most patriotic importance in this gentleman's career, and the other one was just two vets going at it. Now, I could talk about Chris Jericho and Randy Orton all day. I could talk about these guys, but why? We know they're going to put on a great match. It's a given. And we know that Randy Orton only plays well depending on the opponent he actually plays with. And he played with Chris Jericho, so you know he brought his A game. And as usual, they brought their A game, and Chris Jericho ended up losing. My biggest beef is the fact that Chris Jericho is literally losing to Randy Orton. Randy Orton does not need to win anything. Seriously. This doesn't show that he's the apex predator. This just shows that Chris Jericho laid down for Randy Orton. Seriously, that's how I personally see it. When you got two vets in the ring, I wouldn't mind losing to a legend. Seriously, especially if that legend paved the way for me. Not to mention that he has more credentials than I do. If it's a good match, you won't lose. No one will lose, technically. If it's a great match that you put on, you both look good, and in a way, you're still going to be in a position to get the title belt. So it wouldn't matter if you lose to Jericho or not. It would have made more sense to me that Chris Jericho gave a butt whipping to Randy Orton and maybe turned Randy Orton into a legend killer. Seriously. If Randy Orton lost that tonight, if he lost against Chris Jericho and he snaps and goes back to being a legend killer, that's the greatest transition ever. That's the best transition for him. But that didn't happen. Randy Orton ended up winning. So we're going to still keep Randy Orton the way he is. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the most underwhelming, the most underrated match pretty much in the history of this man's career, and it shouldn't have been an underrated, underwhelming match. I'm talking about Mark Henry versus Rusev. Once again, we have a Russia versus America match. Now, this match meant a lot more to Mark Henry than it did Jack Swagger. You can tell. Jack Swagger just didn't like to be second fiddle. Well, not really second fiddle, but Jack Swagger just didn't like to be showed up. So, but the one thing that I admired about Jack Swagger in that feud, even though that feud was more hyped than this one, was the fact that Jack Swagger didn't tap. He refused to tap against Rusev. That's one thing that I give him credit for at SummerSlam. He did not tap at all against Rusev. Not once, but twice. Mark Henry, as big as this dude is, he is way bigger, way stronger than Rusev. Taps out? You have him tap out to Rusev? After all the emotion that was put into this match from this man, the emotion that this man has brought to the table, you're gonna have him tap against Rusev. I don't know what to say about this, folks. I really don't. The fact that Jack Swagger didn't tap not once but twice shows me that Jack Swagger just rather pass out than tap to Rusev. Why on earth would you have Mark Henry tap out to Rusev? He is bigger. He is stronger. He is more fierce than Rusev. This feud worked for him because this guy was an Olympian. It fit way better than Swagger, but for some reason, he taps out. Way to go to play it out, y'all. Way to go to play it out. And not only that, it was completely eclipsed by the main event. At least at SummerSlam, it was attention. They had some attention to that match. They put some spotlight, probably maybe half of it, or maybe 3/4 of it, but there was some spotlight on that match. There was. There was barely a glimmer of promotion for this match. And with the emotion that they put into it, you would think that they would do something with it, but they didn't. That kind of pissed me off a bit. Seeing Mark Henry as big of a bear as this guy is, tap out to Rusev. Yeah. Let's move on to the main event before I get pissed off more. There was literally so many speculations of which direction that this match was going to go. Everybody had their predictions. Everybody had in their mind who was going to win. Honestly, it was half and half. People thought it was Lesnar. People thought it was Cena. I'm happy it wasn't Cena, but I didn't like the outcome. The outcome was probably the worst ending I've ever seen on a pay-per-view in a while. Well, I can't really say Battleground because that whole pay-per-view sucked. But the ending for the main event was the worst. There was no reason, no rhyme or reason at all to have Seth Rollins come out and hit John Cena in the back of the freaking head and try to cash in the Money in the Bank on the Beast, Brock Lesnar. How little sense did that make? Seriously. Sure, they said the bell didn't officially ring. You know what? They need to change the freaking rules on that. If the announcer says you're cashing in, you freaking cash in. Screw the bell. That's how it should be. But the fact that Seth Rollins actually came out and hit John Cena to get to Brock Lesnar to cash in was dumb. Brock Lesnar's a freaking beast. And I really don't think that Brock Lesnar was that knocked out. I think he probably had to lay down a bit for John Cena. And honestly, they're like, oh, John Cena's building momentum. He's a different John Cena. Shut up, JBL. Seriously. He's the same John Cena that he was at SummerSlam. The guy still didn't have that much defense or offense in the match. His offense lasted probably about maybe a good 2 minutes. Brock Lesnar pretty much majority dominated that match. Even if it wasn't as much as it was for SummerSlam. SummerSlam was a beating. While John Cena practically had, according to them, 1 minute and 22 seconds of offense, while Brock Lesnar pretty much dominated the rest of that match. Brock Lesnar still dominated the rest of that match. John Cena was like a child doing the pinwheel against the enemy. That's pretty much what John Cena was doing throughout the entire match. He can't beat Brock. I'm sorry. He needs to train a lot harder to beat Brock Lesnar. And if he won tonight, I would have not been a happy camper. I'm still not a happy camper when it comes to that ending. That ending sucked. And it was stupid and it made no sense. And what I wouldn't be surprised on Raw, they said that the Authority told Seth Rollins to go out there and hit John Cena in the back of the head. Because they wanted Brock to keep the belt. Yeah. Make your beast look like a kitten. Seriously. You're making your beast look like a freaking baby compared to John Cena right now. You should have made Brock Lesnar look like an unstoppable beast. You should have made him look like somebody that can't be conquered on up to WrestleMania. This is something that should be extended towards WrestleMania. There shouldn't be any kind of between. There shouldn't be any kind of leeway. He should still lose. Seriously. John Cena should still lose. He should lose pretty much every single pay-per-view against Brock leading on up to WrestleMania. But now that they added Seth Rollins in the mix, it neutralizes the entire feud. It kind of does. It doesn't make Brock look stronger, and it don't make John Cena look like he can be a conqueror. It just neutralizes it. That was the dumbest ending ever. Seriously, it was the worst ending ever. My overall thoughts is this for Night of Champions. There were some matches that really did impress me, that I thought that was going to be underrated, but I was completely wrong, and I'm glad to be wrong. But the ending of this pay-per-view was stupid, and the IC match was pretty much sucked dry because of Florida Georgia Line. And the Divas match didn't matter without, but the Divas match would have went on without Nikki. And as for the standalone matches, it was a given that Jericho and Randy Orton were going to have a good match. But as for Rusev and Mark Henry, could have been better. But y'all, I want to hear your overall thoughts of this pay-per-view. Leave a comment in the comment section below or send me a video response on your personal feelings towards this pay-per-view. I'm checking out, y'all. I will see y'all at Raw. Later.